Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that many men overlook: the hidden signs of infidelity. If you've ever felt like something was off in your relationship, but couldn't quite put your finger on it, this video is for you. Research suggests that 85% of men don't realize they're being cheated on, not because they aren't paying attention, but because they don't recognize the subtle shifts in behavior and language that often signal infidelity. Women, unlike men, tend to be more discreet when they step outside a relationship. Instead of leaving obvious clues, they rely on carefully chosen words and strategic emotional distancing to conceal their actions. In this video, we'll break down 6 phrases a woman might say when she's being unfaithful. These phrases may sound harmless, but they often carry deeper meanings that reveal emotional detachment, deception, or even an attempt to justify her actions. The key isn't just to listen to the words, but to understand the patterns behind them. This isn't about creating unnecessary suspicion, it's about awareness. The more you understand the psychology behind these behaviors, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself emotionally and make informed decisions in your relationships. So stick around until the end, because the insights in this video might change how you see relationships forever. Let's get started. When it comes to infidelity, men and women approach deception in fundamentally different ways. While men often leave behind obvious trails, suspicious text messages, changes in routine, or a sudden shift in emotional engagement, women tend to be far more discreet. Their ability to conceal affairs stems from emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, and understanding of how to manipulate perception. This is why male intuition alone is rarely enough to uncover female infidelity. Unlike men, who often act impulsively and make careless mistakes, women use deception precisely, ensuring their secrets remain buried beneath layers of plausible deniability. This subtle approach creates a significant challenge for men who suspect their partners might be unfaithful. Women by nature are more attuned to emotional and social dynamics, allowing them to craft convincing narratives that divert suspicion. Instead of drastic behavioral changes, they make minor, almost imperceptible adjustments, slight shifts in body language, subtle changes in tone, or an increase in seemingly innocent social activities. They understand that outright denial is less effective than controlled misdirection. A cheating woman is unlikely to behave with nervous guilt. Instead, she may appear more affectionate or engaged, ensuring that her partner never thinks to question her actions. But while a woman may be skilled at hiding the physical evidence of an affair, her words often carry unintended traces of emotional detachment. When examined closely, specific phrases reveal more than they initially seem to. A sudden shift in language can indicate an internal conflict or an attempt to distance herself from the relationship. These statements often appear harmless, yet they are warning signs of a more profound emotional shift. When a woman begins speaking in ways that subtly discredit the relationship, minimize intimacy, or repositions her emotional loyalty, it may be a sign that she has already started investing herself elsewhere. The most telling aspect of female infidelity is not necessarily a dramatic behavior change, but rather a slow, calculated drift. She doesn't need to lie outright if she can reframe the truth to make her actions seem reasonable. Instead of admitting emotional distance, she may say, "I just need some space." She might claim, instead of acknowledging a newfound attraction to someone else, "I feel like we've grown apart." Though seemingly innocent, these statements often signal the beginning of a quiet withdrawal. The more a woman emotionally disconnects, the less her words reflect genuine investment in the relationship. For men who rely solely on logic and confrontation, uncovering female infidelity can feel nearly impossible. A woman's ability to navigate deception isn't about outright manipulation, but rather an instinctive understanding of controlling perception. She doesn't need to erase the truth, she simply needs to redirect attention. This is why traditional methods of suspicion, checking messages, tracking schedules, or looking for dramatic shifts, often fail. A man who wants to understand whether his partner is genuinely loyal must learn to pay attention to her actions and the subtle ways she frames reality. Her words, her tone, and the energy behind her responses often reveal more than any physical evidence ever could. So, how do you spot these subtle signs? Here are 6 key phrases that signal deception, seemingly harmless words that can mean more than you think. 1. So-and-so understands me so well. A woman's emotional connection with another person does not happen overnight. It develops gradually, often unnoticed at first, until one day she finds herself drawn to someone who seems to understand her in a way that feels effortless. When she frequently mentions a particular name with admiration, her eyes light up as she recalls conversations with him, or subtly compares your reactions to his. It signals something deeper. Emotional affairs do not begin with intention, but with familiarity, comfort, and the gradual erosion of boundaries. The danger lies in the fact that emotional affairs often precede physical ones. Unlike fleeting attractions, an emotional connection builds in layers through shared thoughts, confided secrets, and an irreplaceable bond. She may not recognize it immediately, but the shift has already begun when she turns to this person for advice, reassurance, or validation instead of coming to you. A man attuned to these changes will notice the pattern before it takes shape. When a woman repeatedly praises the same individual, it is rarely just about admiration. It is an indication of who occupies her mental space. If she speaks of him in a way that makes you feel like you compete, if his words hold more weight than yours, or if his perspective seems to align with hers in a way that makes you feel distant, it is a sign that a connection is forming outside of your relationship. This is not about paranoia or control, but about awareness. Attraction, whether emotional or physical, follows patterns. And when she feels understood by another man in a way she no longer thinks with you, she will wonder why. A woman deeply connected to her partner does not need to seek that understanding elsewhere. The issue is rarely about the new connection, but what was missing long before it appeared. The mistake many men make is ignoring the early signs, assuming that words alone mean nothing. But emotional intimacy is built on words, shared moments, and the feeling of being indeed seen. The way she talks about him is not just conversation, it reflects her shifting emotional world. Understanding this does not mean reacting with jealousy or fear, it means recognizing the deeper issue. Has the emotional space between you widened? Has she stopped feeling heard? Emotional attraction does not begin with betrayal, it starts with unmet needs. If she continuously highlights another man's emotional presence in her life, it is not simply admiration but a warning, and if left unchecked, it may soon become something more. 2. Don't worry, I'm just going out with some friends. When a woman casually mentions that she's just going out with some friends, it may seem like an innocent statement, but its true meaning often depends on the context. Sometimes it's exactly what it sounds like, a simple night out. Other times it's a deliberate way to avoid questions and keep you from looking too closely at her plans. A woman who respects and values her relationship won't feel the need to be vague or evasive, but if she consistently keeps her social plans unclear, there may be more going on beneath the surface than she's letting on. Men who ignore the subtle signs of secrecy often find themselves blindsided when the truth eventually comes to light. A woman who repeatedly offers minimal details about where she's going, who she's with, or what she'll be doing deliberately controls the narrative. She may not want to lie outright, but she doesn't want to be completely transparent. Instead, she keeps things vague, knowing that the less information she gives, the less likely she is to be questioned. One of the biggest red flags is inconsistency. If her stories don't align, if she mentions one plan but later refers to another, or if her details shift when you ask again, she's likely concealing something. Similarly, a sudden change in her social circle, frequently going out with people you've never heard of or barely mentioned before, can indicate that she's surrounding herself with those who won't hold her accountable. A woman who enjoys spending time with her friends will speak about them naturally and openly, but when she becomes guarded or defensive when asked simple questions, it's a sign that something isn't right. A man who notices these patterns must remain composed and observant. Reacting emotionally or confrontationally will only push her further into secrecy, giving her an excuse to justify her behavior. Instead, the most effective approach is acknowledging the pattern and assessing how her actions align with her words. A woman who values honesty and loyalty won't feel the need to hide behind vague statements. But if she consistently leaves you questioning her intentions, it may be time to step back and reevaluate whether she is genuinely invested in the relationship. 3. I need more space for myself. When a woman tells you she needs more space, it's often tempting to believe she simply wants some time to recharge. While that might be true, this request can be a subtle sign of something more significant. It might indicate emotional withdrawal or the beginning of distancing herself from the relationship. Women don't always express their detachment openly. They often test the waters before making final decisions. A key sign of this shift is a sudden drop in communication. She may stop sharing details about her day, or her responses may become vague and distant. This isn't just about needing privacy, it's about creating emotional space. If her need for solitude becomes more frequent and she starts prioritizing time alone over time with you, it's a red flag. Secrecy is another indicator. If she begins to hide her phone, avoids sharing her plans, or becomes protective of her personal life, it could suggest she's emotionally withdrawing or engaging in something outside the relationship. Privacy is standard, but it raises questions when it turns into secrecy. The most telling sign is emotional detachment. If she becomes less affectionate, uninterested in meaningful conversations, or distant in general, she's likely no longer invested in the relationship in the same way. A woman who values the relationship will maintain warmth and connection, even if she needs more space. But if she starts pulling away emotionally while keeping you at arm's length, it could be a sign she is already disengaging. Understanding these signs isn't about being paranoid, but seeing the truth before it becomes undeniable. If she's genuinely interested, she will communicate openly. But if space becomes a cover for detachment, it's essential to remain calm, observe, and decide if this is the relationship you want to invest in. 4. I'm working late tonight. There's a specific phrase that, when repeated too often, starts to lose its credibility. I'm working late tonight. It sounds like a reasonable explanation, an unavoidable obligation, a necessary sacrifice for career growth. But when this statement appears out of nowhere, breaking long-standing patterns, it becomes something else entirely. Work is an easy alibi, a convenient shield behind which hidden truths can be carefully concealed. And when a woman suddenly starts using it more than ever before, especially without prior signs of work stress or deadlines, it's worth paying attention. Most men want to believe in trust, take words at face value, and assume the best, but patterns reveal what words attempt to hide. A woman who has never needed to work late but now frequently does so without much explanation may not be drowning in professional responsibilities. The sudden change, the lack of context, and the absence of details make the excuse feel hollow. If questions about her schedule are met with defensiveness, vague responses, or irritation, it suggests that work may not be the only thing occupying her time. Behavioral shifts are rarely random. If late nights become a routine and her schedule starts to feel more like a moving target than a structured plan, it's worth considering whether her absences are more intentional than circumstantial. An explanation that once seemed logical now carries an undertone of secrecy. A genuinely busy woman typically offers context: an important project, an unexpected deadline, a demanding boss. But when explanations remain surface level and additional details feel forced or inconsistent, the truth may lie outside her workplace's walls. The strongest indicator of deception is not just the words themselves, but how they're delivered. If a simple question about her schedule results in frustration, dismissiveness, or a rapid change of subject, it's a defense mechanism at play. Guilt has a way of making people overreact to the most benign inquiries. A woman with nothing to hide won't feel the need to justify herself excessively. She won't be unusually eager to prove her point or become visibly uncomfortable under casual scrutiny. When an innocent question turns into a battleground, there's clearly more beneath the surface. Infidelity, when it happens, is rarely an impulsive decision. It's often the result of a slow unraveling, a series of calculated steps, each carefully placed to avoid suspicion. Working late is an excuse that thrives on trust, a man's willingness to accept rather than question. But trust should never come at the cost of awareness. A man who understands human nature knows that the truth isn't found in words alone. It's found in actions, consistency, and small but revealing shifts that expose what someone would rather keep hidden. 5. I think we need some time apart. When a woman says, "I think we need some time apart," it may seem like a chance to reset and reevaluate the relationship. However, this request can sometimes be an excuse to explore other options without guilt. What may appear as a simple pause can quickly become a hidden justification for infidelity. The timing of such a request is key. If it comes unexpectedly, without prior discussion or warning signs, it may indicate deeper, unspoken issues. More concerning is if, shortly after the break is suggested, she begins to spend time with someone else or starts dating again. This quick shift could indicate that the break wasn't about reflection, but a way to test new emotional or physical connections outside the relationship. A lack of defined boundaries during the separation is another red flag. If there's no clarity on what the break entails, how long it will last, or what's off limits, it's likely that the relationship has already started to fade, or she's already emotionally checked out. Without clear communication, the time apart can easily blur into a full-fledged exit from the relationship. In many cases, the request for space may not just be about needing time to think. It could be a strategic way to explore new possibilities without feeling guilty about infidelity. While some people seek time apart to reassess things, if her actions suggest she's already moving on, it's essential to acknowledge that the relationship may be at a crossroads. 6. El dire. You deserve someone better than me. When a woman says, "You deserve someone better than me," it may sound self-deprecating, but it often hides a deeper meaning. On the surface, it seems like an expression of insecurity, but in many cases, it's a way for her to shift guilt onto you. This phrase often precedes a shift in the relationship dynamic, signaling that something is about to change. The phrase is a red flag because it usually marks the beginning of emotional distance. She may start withdrawing, avoiding meaningful conversations, and gradually detaching emotionally before the relationship ends. Instead of openly addressing issues, she might frame herself as the villain without offering explanations, preparing for a breakup without acknowledging it outright. Key signs to watch include a lack of interest in plans, emotional disengagement, and inconsistent behavior. If she starts framing herself as the cause of the problems, it could be a signal that she has already moved on mentally and emotionally. This behavior is often associated with infidelity, though it's not always the case. If there's secrecy or emotional withdrawal, it may indicate that her affections have shifted elsewhere. The main takeaway is that when a woman says you deserve someone better than her, it's often not about her self-worth. It's a way to begin emotionally detaching from the relationship. If you notice these signs, it's essential to remain composed and not try to convince her otherwise. Recognizing these patterns early can help you move forward with clarity and emotional strength, preventing unnecessary confusion as the relationship fades. Recognizing these subtle yet significant phrases isn't about paranoia, but awareness. A healthy relationship is built on trust, transparency, and mutual respect. But it's crucial to pay attention when specific patterns emerge. When combined with emotional and physical availability shifts, these statements may indicate more profound issues that shouldn't be ignored. The key takeaway is to listen carefully, observe changes in behavior, and trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. Awareness is your best defense against deception, and self-respect is your greatest asset in any relationship. A high-value man does not ignore red flags or allow himself to be strung along. He recognizes his worth and sets boundaries accordingly. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever noticed these signs in a relationship? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights on relationships, self-improvement, and personal growth. Stay strong, stay aware, and always prioritize your peace. See you in the next one.